Once upon a time, there was a girl named Lisa Holm. She was only 17 but full of love and smarts, ready to take on the world. But one day, poof, she disappeared like magic. No enemies, nowhere dangerous. So where did she go? Get ready for a story that might give you goosebumps. Welcome to Crime Canvas, where I spill the beans on true crime tales and stuff you might wish you didn't know. Thanks for tuning in, and our hearts go out to Lisa's loved ones and anyone touched by this mystery. I just want to preface this video by apologizing for my pronunciations of some Swedish words and places. I have tried my hardest to get these words right, but I am definitely not a native Swedish speaker. So here we go. Lisa Holm was born on the 7th of February 1998. She grew up in the small picturesque town of Skövde, Sweden with her family. Lisa was a kind and caring person who loved animals, listening to music, and spending time with her friends. Lisa's mother, Lisa Holm, described her daughter as an amazing girl with a heart of gold. She was always there for her friends and family, and she had so many plans for the future. And that she did. She had just graduated from high school and had taken on a new job at a café in Blomberg. This was just a 45-minute drive from her hometown. Blomberg is a small village in a rural area east of Gothenburg. It was just a stopgap, a summer job before she went on to study social sciences. As a present for graduating and to get her to her new job, her father had bought her a moped to give her some independence. The world was opening up to 17-year-old Lisa. I remember being his age, and it really is the most exciting time you'll ever have. For 2 weeks, Lisa and her father had traveled back and forth for her shifts at the cafe. Her dad traveled with her to let her gain some confidence on the scooter. She was new to the moped, and it wasn't the quickest journey, but now she was ready. On the 24th of May 2015, a video was uploaded to YouTube by the user Lisa Holm. The video was a simple countdown timer. The countdown started at 1 minute and 1 second. The video is only 11 or 12 seconds in duration. The video ended when the countdown hit 50 seconds. The video was titled 13. What you're seeing on screen now is that actual video. On Sunday, the 7th of June 2015, Lisa set off for work alone for the first time. Lisa was on the closing shift. She made it there with time to spare, a successful journey. Her shift went on as was to be expected. She laughed with customers, she chatted with her colleagues, but generally speaking, the day was uneventful. Lisa and her colleagues began to close up. It's around 6 p.m., and by 6:23 p.m., she texted her dad to say she was leaving the cafe and would be home soon. A successful first day as an independent young woman. Shortly after this, she phoned her dad, but it seemed to be an accident, a pocket dial. He could hear the cheerful murmuring of voices from her coworkers. This was positive. It was happy. There was nothing untoward. But unbeknownst to Lisa's father, this would be the last time he would ever hear her voice. The journey from the cafe to Lisa's home should have taken around 40 to 45 minutes. But by 7:30 p.m., she still wasn't home. Her parents tried to call her, but it repeatedly went straight to voicemail. They became increasingly anxious. So her father drove along the route that she was taking. He checked every roadside ditch, scared that she'd had an accident. However, there was no sign of her at all. When he arrived at the cafe and saw the moped outside, he had a moment of immense relief. But this moment was short-lived. As he got closer, he saw the keys in the ignition. The relief was cruelly snatched away and replaced with a creeping dread. Lisa was wise. She would not just leave the keys in the scooter and walk away. After searching the cafe and the surrounding area to no avail, Lisa's father called the police, who launched a preliminary investigation. When the police arrived at the cafe, they searched the area for any sign of the missing girl. Anyone who knew Lisa knew they were looking at a case of abduction and not a runaway. With the help of a police dog, they searched the surrounding areas. This included a conspicuous barn that sat across from the cafe. But nothing. They knocked on doors, asking local residents for any information that could help. The search continued overnight, leading into Monday, the 8th of June. But it was all fruitless. In the morning, they released a statement to say that the teenage girl was missing. They chose not to reveal Lisa's name, holding the information close to their chest. but they felt this gave enough information away to assist the investigation. At the same time, the police made a harrowing discovery. A moped glove had been found in the barn opposite the cafe. It was confirmed to be Lisa's. This was the same barn that had been searched by the police and search dogs the nights before. Strangely, though, nothing had been found during those initial searches. The glove had been handed into the police by the landlord of the Blomberg estates. He said that it had been found by farm workers who had gone into the barn to begin their work that morning. Unfortunately, the chain of custody for the glove was not entirely reliable. This essentially invalidated any forensic evidence that could have been taken from it. But the discovery of the glove changed the course of the investigation. The investigation was consequently upgraded. This allowed authorities to make use of all resources available to them. This meant more officers, larger search parties, and more manpower. Officers established a command center at Kelby Sports Ground near the cafe, and quickly more traces of Lisa were discovered. A few hundred meters south, officers found what appeared to be the contents of her pockets: a mobile phone case, 2 old receipts, a used metro ticket, and a smashed mobile phone screen. With some solid progress finally coming, all the items were identified as Lisa's by her parents. These items were found on a small gravel road off the beaten track. If you weren't a local, you probably wouldn't even know that the path existed. The discovery of the smashed mobile phone confirmed the police's worst fears. One of the first ports of call was to trace the teenager's movements using her cell phone. But when they triangulated her phone on the day of her disappearance, they reached a dead end. Lisa's last known location was at the cafe, but there was no activity after she left. This told investigators that she may have been told to switch off her mobile, or more concerningly, it was taken from her. With a smashed screen found, things weren't looking too good. Lisa's family, friends, and 2 colleagues were interviewed, but no new leads were found. Lisa was just a normal 17-year-old girl from a small town. There was simply no one that anyone could think of that would want to do her any harm. On the very next day, Tuesday the 9th of June, more evidence was found: her driver's license and house keys. But still, no Lisa and no indication of where she could be. The search teams emptied mineral wells, they scoured buildings, and waded through farmlands, all in the hopes of finding anything that could point them in the right direction. But time was quickly running out. The chances of someone being returned home safely were exponentially lessening as the days drew on. The police and the family made the call to release Lisa's identity to the public on Wednesday, the 10th of June. After this press conference, almost 1,000 people flocked from across Sweden to help aid the search. To this day, this search party for Lisa is the largest Sweden has ever seen. With the extra manpower, the search parties began to go back over places that they'd already searched. One of these places was the barn. During yet another search of the barn, investigators found one of Lisa's earrings near the entrance. Police narrowed in on the barn, and forensics teams were brought in to obtain as much information as possible. They discovered some biological matter, namely human feces. These were believed to actually belong to the person responsible for taking Lisa. Due to human evolution during times of immense rushes, there can be an urge to void the bowels. They speculated that whoever took Lisa experienced this adrenaline rush. For them, this was all a thrill. While forensic investigators narrowed in on the barn, the search area grew to a 5-kilometer radius around the cafe, including nearby farms and residences. Searches reached a property called Martup Farm, which sat a few kilometers from the cafe. While they were there, 2 men turned up in a car. They claimed that the farm had already been examined and not to waste their time. But something didn't seem right. The volunteers were suspicious and decided they should call it in to the police. When law enforcement arrived, they continued to hunt, and soon they found Lisa's helmet, jacket, and earphones hidden under the twigs and foliage nearby. Was an old wooden trailer or work sheds that looked like it had been recently accessed. The long grass leading up to it was flattened or pushed down. As they entered, the unmistakable smell of death hit them in the face. Inside, there were benches and lockers like an old changing room. The lockers were closed, except one that was full of old clothes. They then opened every locker, but they found nothing. They then looked more closely at the locker stuffed with clothes. In that cramped, narrow space, they realized they weren't looking simply at clothing. Instead, they had found Lisa stuffed into the locker, no longer breathing. She was only half dressed and had a rope around her neck, duct tape over her mouth and her nose. On Friday, the 12th of June, the police stormed the house at Martop Farm. They arrested a 25-year-old man, his wife, and his brother, Narajus Belavichis, his brother Ivaris, and Narajus's wife. The Lithuanian brothers worked as laborers on Martop Farm and also in the barn by the café. Their house led directly onto the gravel road where Lisa's belongings had been discarded. It was between the farm and the barn. They all denied any involvement in Lisa's case and acted as alibis for each other. The barn was inspected once again amid growing criticism that the police had not been thorough enough. This barn wasn't just one wide-open space. There were several rooms, including an office and a milking room. The office had a large window with a clear view of the café from it. Anyone in there could see young waitresses coming in and out, serving customers. In that office was evidence of self-gratification on the wall by the window, stains if you will. After these stains were tested for DNA, they were found to be a positive match for Narajus. Disturbingly, Lisa's co-workers in the cafe later recalled seeing one or both of the brothers staring at them from that window. In the milking room, there was a pipe sticking out of the wall with a rope on it. This later the time that Lisa vanished. Online communities jumped on this element of the story, seeing it as a once-in-a-lifetime event, reminiscent of something from a movie or gritty Netflix drama. The title of the video, 13, referred to the number of full days between the video being posted and Lisa disappearing. The channel name was obviously Lisa Holm, so many theorized that this all pointed towards the crime being premeditated. Premeditation makes a big difference in what charges can be brought against a suspect and what sentences will be handed down to them. Police investigated the origins of the video. However, they discovered it was nothing more than a cruel hoax. The video title had been changed to 13 inches after Lisa vanished, and the channel name was also changed to Lisa Holm. Just to add to this cruel mystique, in November 2015, the case went to trial. The prosecutors argued that Narajus had kidnapped Lisa so that he could violate her intimately. When police seized his computers, they discovered a lot of dark and disturbing adult films. Suspending Lisa from the pipe in the milking room was for his own gratification, trying to reenact the films on his computer. And then, after the fact, once he'd had what he wanted, he tried to hide what he had done. It was hard to argue against the concrete facts, against the evidence. But strangely, his defense tried to push the blame onto his younger brother. They said that he had planted the evidence. They argued that there was no DNA found in the car, so how could he have transported the body? That is a valid argument, but thankfully, one that didn't hold up against the mountains of evidence stacked against him. He denied ever having met Lisa at all, saying, "I have not ever met this girl. I have only seen her picture. I know how difficult it is for the family, and I suffer with them. I myself am a father." No DNA of Ivaris was found. He couldn't be placed anywhere near Lisa. On the 17th of November 2015, a verdict was reached. Narajus Belavichis was found guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison for his crime. The monster who took the beautiful and kind Lisa would spend the rest of his life in prison. However, it just turns out that the rest of his life wasn't very long. On the 3rd of August 2022, Narajus was stabbed in the neck by another inmate. This is no justice for the pain he caused the family and friends of Lisaholm, but they can rest assured he will never be able to do anyone else harm ever again. Do you think the punishment fitted the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Let me know down in the comments. Please do hit like if you appreciate what I'm doing here. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.